Abhisha. Oh, sure.
Just before we begin with the speech, Ajay, before you start the timing, I would like to tell everybody that the particular speech is going to be divided into 5 steps. Number 1 is selecting a partner. Meet will be my partner. Number 2 is I will tell you the process about diffusing criticism. Number 3 will be we will briefly introduce the role play. Number 4 we will play the role play. I know that is not a correct grammar. And number 5 will be we will discuss all of us how it went and where I could have improved upon, kind of a round robin. So please pay attention and help me improve in my last step of this particular speech. I think you can start. You forgot our anniversary. You really don't care, do you? Or you have any idea what you're talking about? Angry statements like these and accusations often are the beginning for an argument. Arguments are inevitable. Well, nobody can actually agree with others all the time. So it is expected to happen. But those who really have control over their how they want to discuss about their differences and how they want to diffuse it, those are the people who have less emotional stress, and there are more chances that they can get with the solution. They can come up with a solution for their problem. To diffuse criticism, there are a few ways. I will tell you about those. Number 1, withdrawing. Sometimes you do want to accept the criticism calmly and then just maybe even get out of the room. Well, in this case, the criticism doesn't escalate, but you might lose your self-respect. Number 2 is rationalizing. The strategy is to accept the criticism, but immediately follow up with an explanation. Unfortunately, by the time you have mentioned about your explanation, the other person already has had more than enough time to find holes in your explanation. Number 3 is counterattacking. Well, in this case, the criticism or the issue will just escalate. You are trying to take your negative part to the other person. You're trying to blame the other person where they were at fault. It is just going to escalate. It is not going to resolve any real issues. Number 4 is non-defensively responding. What it means is you listen to the other person non-judgmentally and calmly. You acknowledge the reason for the other person to discuss about the problem. You accept it. You start working with that person on how to resolve that issue. Well, this option is the most productive and rewarding. But this option requires most efforts on your part. The steps you want to follow in making sure that you respond non-defensively are listen, acknowledge, ask questions, paraphrase, and accept the truth. And before I start with the role play, I would like to give you some tips. These are just stay calm. Do not take anything personally. You can use non-verbal listening skills and respect the other person. With that, I would like to invite my role partner, Meet, on the stage. Thank you, Meet. Would you like to introduce our scenario?
Yes, this is a scenario that we often go through, and I found this is a perfect
perfect opportunity to say the truth without filtering it. So we're going out for dinner, and often we're late, and it's easy to play this role over here. So I'm going to start with the situation. We are sitting in the car. I am pissed because we're late again. And you know who has contributed to that errorless situation. So now we're in the car, and I'm going to start the role play. You know we're running late. Every single time we go out for dinner, we have to be late. There's no way we can be on time, unless, of course, I'm going by myself. We've had this conversation on numerous times. You know I don't like being late. And it's happening over and over and over again.
I see that. I agree that we are late today, and that's because of me. I also agree that probably when you were alone, you were going on time. I see the problem. Do you think we could talk to the guys via meeting that we are running late, and then make sure they wait for us?
Right. Of course, we're going to do that, but this is the second and third time we're meeting the same set of people, and we're sending the same set of text messages. Hey, sorry, we are late. And there's no action we've taken on our part to be on time in the future. And we're failing to do that, and that is what pisses me off.
Okay, I understand. What comes to my mind right now is probably you have done this a number of times. I know you have told me that this is the time we are supposed to leave. I would like your help in that from next time. When you tell me...
You know what happens at that point, right? If I tell you we have to leave at 7:15 and I start reminding at 7, guess who's getting pissed off at that time? It's you.
I promise. Next time onwards, I promise. I will take care of that and then consider the time I take into getting ready and the time I take into doing the last minute errands.
Can we agree on this fact? Next time, you're not allowed to get pissed off if I point out this is the time you have to be ready by.
Sure. I will not get angry.
Okay.
I will
And what other steps are we going to take to make sure that we are on time?
Number one is, rather than just telling me that what time we are supposed to leave, probably if you help me walk out, which I might forget and it's my fault, but help me walk out backwards on what time I need to start getting ready. And that is an effort I'm asking you, but once you do that, I'm sure I will be able to work towards that. Okay,
I think that's a good plan. And also let's decide on the fact that instead of leaving at 7:15 to be at a place at 7:45, let's try and leave at 7, shoot to leave at 7. That way we have 15 minutes of buffer.
Sure. So then tell me about 7. Don't tell me about 7:15.
Yes,
that will work
and we
me.
stick with that.
Sure.
Okay, I'm glad you're listening to me this time.
That's because we are in Toastmasters. You need to stay here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Probably you still need to stay here. Now is the time when all of us, including you, will tell me that how the conversation went and where I could have changed. Anybody want to begin?
I can say something.
Okay.
So I think you did a really good job. I think one thing you could have done is to at first be like, Myth was getting pretty angry. I could tell that he was getting more and more frustrated. So you could have drawn his attention to the fact that he is getting very worked up. So you could have been like, I'm sorry, it's my fault, but could we please calm down and discuss this more calmly? And that way he'll feel as though you apologize, so he will also calm down. And because you're asking him to, he will calm down.
Yeah.
And then you can have the rest of the discussion in a more calm voice.
That's, yeah, I agree. That gives me an opportunity to talk properly. Talk
without getting interrupted.
Yeah. That's a good point. Anybody else?
I too felt that way when you were trying to pretend to listen to me, because this is an exercise. It really appeared you were pretending. So your words have to be more affirmative. If you're apologizing, it has to sound more sincere. And you have to grab my attention saying that, hey, I'm sorry, but let's work through this. It sounded more like an exercise that we're trying rather than a real life scenario.
I would say when this confrontation starts, a good thing to say is, you're right. Where do we go from here? making the arrangements of, how do we handle it next time is absolutely perfect. But when you say you're right, no one will ever argue with you if you agree with them. And then that diffuses everything. And by the way, what would be a good way to handle this? Which is, pretty much your follow-up through it. But always admit wrong. Also, another technique is, even if you don't agree with them, I understand what you're telling me. And that is a very powerful way to diffuse things. That's not saying you agree with them. You're saying, I understand what you're telling me.
Yeah.
You could be dead wrong, but you still understand it.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what I understand. Here's the points you said. Let's talk about this.
I would just add what John was talking about. Something that I've learned in parent or confrontation books is to parrot the other person so that they know that you hear what they're saying, and you can. When you do parrot, or when you repeat, is what parroting is. When you repeat, it's important to add in emotions as well as specifics.
Yeah. That's a good one. Anybody else?
Count for myth. I mean, was it feigned? It was very serious, man. It scared me. That actually scared me.
Good actors.
The club should be charging $120 an hour for this.